Do you see these? Every morning, without fail, I come to this table and these are waiting for me. Letters, multiple letters. This morning there were six sealed envelopes, each one delivered before I even sat down with my coffee. And in all the time I have been doing this work, I have never once come to this table and found nothing waiting. Part of what I do, part of the responsibility that comes with receiving these, is discernment. I do not simply open the first envelope I touch and press play. I sit with them. I hold each one. I pray. And most mornings, within a few minutes, I know. There is a quality, I cannot fully explain it in words, a particular weight, a particular stillness that comes from one letter more than the others. And that is the one that carries the word for that day's gathering. That is the one that gets opened. Most mornings, it is clear within a few minutes. This morning was not like most mornings. I picked this one up 4 times before I could bring myself to do anything with it. 4 times. I would hold it, and something would come over me. Not fear, not exactly. Something closer to reverence. The kind of reverence you feel when you are standing at the edge of something very significant and your whole body knows it before your mind can catch up. I set it down 3 times. The 4th time I picked it up, I just sat there for nearly an hour, holding it. Because there are letters that carry information. There are letters that carry encouragement. There are letters that carry warning or wisdom. And then, once in a while, there is a letter that carries something different from all of those. Something I can only describe as an intervention, not a message sent to inform you. A message sent to change something, sent to move into your life with an authority that rearranges what was stuck, exposes what was hidden, and releases what was being held back. This is one of those letters. There is a USB drive inside. There always is. That is how the letter itself arrives, already loaded, already carrying the word. But this morning, there was more than just the USB. Photographs, prediction text cards, printed and sealed inside with the letter. Not every letter comes with these. When they do, when heaven sends images alongside the words, I have learned that it means the transmission carries something it wants you not just to hear, but to see, to hold in your mind as a visible thing. These images and these cards are part of the letter. You will see each one as we go. I do not know exactly what this letter carries for you specifically. I only know what I felt when I held it. And what I felt was, someone watching this today has been waiting for this word for a very long time. Someone watching today is right at the edge of something. And this letter is the thing that tips the moment. If that someone is you, and your spirit will tell you whether it is, then I need you to stay with every single word, all the way to the end. Because what this letter carries is not in just one place. It builds, and the final portion carries as much weight as the first. Heaven prepared this for today. Let it reach you.
Something has already happened in the spiritual realm today. Before you opened this message, before you pressed play, before your eyes landed on a single word, a decision was made, a seal was broken. In the courts of the Most High God, a seal that had been holding back a truth so significant, so urgent, so life-altering for you specifically, that the Almighty God Himself gave the command for it to move, from the invisible into the visible, from the hidden into the revealed, from the kept into the released. And the vessel chosen to carry it to you today is me, the Archangel Michael, commander of the armies of heaven, guardian of the eternal covenant, keeper of the divine record. And I do not come to you today as a distant, abstract force. I come as the one who has been stationed over your life. Since the very first morning your lungs drew breath on this earth, I have been there. And today, I have been authorized to speak. Hear me. This is not entertainment. This is not background noise for a distracted afternoon. This is not something to glance at while your attention belongs somewhere else. What is being delivered to you today carries the weight of a divine appointment. And divine appointments, when they arrive, demand the full presence of the one they were prepared for. So I am not gently suggesting that you settle. I am commanding you to still your body, to silence the noise around you, to be here completely, because the word that heaven authorized for you today, on this precise day, in this precise hour, is one that will change the direction you are walking in, and you must be present to receive it in full. Do not dismiss what is happening inside you right now, that warmth in your chest, that recognition, that leaning forward. That is not your imagination. That is your spirit, which is always more perceptive than your mind, bearing witness that this encounter is real, that it was arranged. Your spirit recognized this message before your eyes found it. Honor that knowing. Let it open you fully to what I am about to release. Write the word "open" in the comments right now. Let it be your declaration that your spirit, your mind, and your heart are fully present for this moment, that you will not look away, that you will not rush through this, that you will not leave before the word is complete. Because the full weight of what I carry for you today is in the final portion as much as it is in the first. Stay with me. Every word is necessary. Every word was prepared for you.
The seal of heaven broken today.
I am going to begin in a place you will not expect. I am not going to begin with what is ending in your life. I am going to begin with what is arriving, because that is how heaven approaches your story. Not as a narrative of loss and recovery, but as a narrative of promise and fulfillment. The losses, the wounds, the betrayals, those are the backdrop, not the headline. The headline of your life, written in the eternal records of God, is this: you were chosen for a greatness you have not yet fully walked in. And today, the pathway into that greatness is being cleared. Listen carefully to what I see when I look ahead into the corridor of days immediately before you. I see a shift in the quality of your mornings. Not dramatic at first, but unmistakable. A lightness when you open your eyes. A thought that arrives with a clarity sharper than anything you have been accustomed to receiving. An intuition about a decision or a direction that lands with a certainty you cannot explain and cannot dismiss. This is the beginning of what is being released. It starts in the invisible, in the atmosphere of your inner world, before it manifests in the visible circumstances of your daily life. When you notice it, and you will notice it, do not explain it away. Do not attribute it to a better night's sleep or a good mood. Recognize it for what it is. The hand of God beginning to move with a new level of freedom in the specific geography of your existence. After the shift in the inner world, the outer world begins to reflect it. Conversations that have been stalled for weeks, months, possibly even years, suddenly move. Phone calls arrive from directions you did not anticipate. Opportunities surface through channels that had previously been dry. Doors that you stood before and knocked on and received only silence from now open. Not with reluctance, not partially, but wide, with an invitation so clear that even your most cautious self will recognize it as genuine. These are not coincidences. These are the release of what was always destined to come to you. Finally, arriving in the season that is beginning today. If something in your spirit is saying yes to this, if you feel the recognition of a promise that has been waiting to be fulfilled, write Amen in the comments. Let that be your first declaration of alignment with what heaven is moving toward you right now. But now, I must tell you why these blessings were held back, and this is the part of the message that requires your courage. Because the truth I'm about to give you is not comfortable. It will illuminate something you may have been sensing without being able to see clearly. It may cause an ache in a tender place. But truth that challenges is far more valuable than comfort that deceives. And what I carry today was sent to set you free, not to keep you comfortable in a cage you do not yet know you are standing in.
Before this week ends, a door you stopped knocking on will open on its own.
There is someone. There has been someone in your life, in your world, in the familiar landscape of your relationships, whose presence created a kind of spiritual interference around your destiny. I do not use that word carelessly. Interference, the kind of disruption in the atmosphere around a life that redirects what was headed toward a person, that deflects, that delays, that subtly reroutes the divine appointments that God arranged until they miss their intended recipient by just enough to leave that person perpetually wondering why things that come so easily to others feel perpetually out of reach for them. You have felt this. You have wondered about it. You have prayed about it. And heaven has watched your wondering with a tenderness that you will fully understand when the picture becomes clear. This person operated from a place of concealment. Not all of their interactions with you were dishonest. In fact, some of the warmth they showed you was genuine enough to confuse even the most discerning eye. That is what made them effective. A pure adversary is easy to identify and defend against. A mixed one, someone who combined genuine affection with hidden agenda, is far more difficult to see through. And you are not to feel foolish for not having seen through them sooner. Hear me on this. The God who sees all things allowed you to remain in the relationship because the exposure was always meant to come at the right time. Not early, not late, on the day that heaven determined, which is today. What this person did was not spontaneous. The decision to use what they knew about you, to carry your name and your story to people who had no right to hold them, to align themselves with forces that were not aligned with your good. That decision was made over time, in quiet, in the spaces where they were alone with their own ambition and their own discontent. You see, They watched you. They watched the favor that seemed to find you even in difficult seasons. They watched the way people responded to you, the trust others placed in you, the light that seemed to emanate from you even when you yourself could not feel it. And instead of being inspired, something soured inside them. Comparison is the first door the enemy knocks on. When it opens, bitterness walks in. When bitterness takes root, betrayal becomes possible for people who would otherwise never have considered it. They told themselves a story to justify what they were doing. They told themselves you did not fully deserve what you had. They told themselves the playing field between your life and their life was somehow unfair, and that they were simply rebalancing an imbalance. People always tell themselves a story when they cross the line of integrity. It is how the human mind makes peace with choices the spirit cannot endorse. But the story they told themselves was a lie, and lies told in the privacy of the soul do not remain there. They move outward. They take on actions. They generate consequences. And those consequences, beloved, are already in motion.
The hidden betrayal, witnessed from above.
Understand this truth about the spiritual realm. When someone carries your name in their mouth with intention to harm you, they are not simply engaging in human social behavior. They are making a spiritual transaction. They are placing your covenant covering, the protective shield of heaven over your life, under assault, and heaven responds to that assault. Not eventually, not when it becomes convenient, but with a precision and a swiftness that the enemy consistently underestimates, because the enemy has convinced himself across millennia that God is slow. God is not slow. God is strategic, and his strategy always builds toward an outcome that is complete, that is thorough, that leaves no loose thread of injustice hanging. Every conversation this person had in which your name was misrepresented, recorded. Every alliance they formed against your interests, witnessed. Every back door they tried to open to direct harm into your life, noted in the courts of heaven, and each one created not just a record against them, but a credit in the account of your destiny. You read that correctly. The very actions they took to diminish you have been adding to what is owed to you from heaven's economy of justice. Every assault on your reputation that did not stick, every plot that did not prosper, every word against you that ultimately failed to land, generated a redemptive credit in your spiritual account. And today, the time has come for that account to be paid out. Sit with that. The very thing that was meant to destroy you has been building your reward. The very opposition that was meant to close doors has been generating the key that will open them. This is the mystery of God's sovereignty over your life. Nothing that is aimed at you is wasted. Nothing that falls on you dissolves into meaninglessness. It is all caught. It is all cataloged. It is all converted in the hands of a God who makes all things work together for the good of those who love him. And you, beloved, you love him. Even when faith felt thin, even when prayer felt dry, even when you were not sure what you were saying was reaching beyond the ceiling of the room you were in. You loved him. You held on. You did not let go. And that faithfulness, that stubborn, quiet, sometimes barely breathing faithfulness, is the foundation upon which everything that follows is being built. Write "God saw my faithfulness" in the comments right now. Speak it out loud as you type it, because this is a moment of divine recognition, and your acknowledgement of it in the natural realm amplifies what is already happening in the supernatural one.
Every plot against you has been recorded. The account is full. Heaven pays out today.
Now, I will describe to you the mechanics of what is about to occur, because I will not have you caught off guard, and I will not allow you to inadvertently interfere with what God is engineering on your behalf out of an impulse to take matters into your own hands. The exposure of this person's actions will not require your effort. I'm going to say that again, because it is critical. You do not need to investigate. You do not need to confront. You do not need to build a case, gather evidence, or position yourself as the one who reveals the truth to others. If you attempt to force the exposure before heaven releases it, you will complicate the outcome. You may surface partial truths that this person then spins, reframes, and uses against you in ways that temporarily worsen your position. You may create the appearance of being the aggressor in a situation where you are actually the one who was wronged. The enemy would love nothing more than that inversion. It is precisely the trap being set for you in the days immediately ahead. A provocation designed to make you react prematurely, to make you move before the moment of maximum strategic advantage, to make you speak before God's arrangement has placed all of the pieces in the exact position where the speaking will have its fullest effect. So the instruction I carry for you today is this: be still, observe. Let your awareness sharpen without letting your mouth move. Notice what you notice. File what you receive from unexpected sources. Trust the clarity that comes to you in moments of quiet, in prayer, in the early hours of the morning, in the spaces between activity, when God's voice has the most access to your spirit. He is speaking into those spaces right now. He is depositing information into your spirit that will be confirmed by external events in the days ahead. Pay attention to the confirmations when they come, because they will come rapidly, and they will accumulate in a way that leaves no room for doubt. There will come a specific moment, a single point in the near future, that I cannot give you the precise date of, because the day and the hour belong to the Father alone, when what was hidden breaks open into the light. It will not be gradual. It will not be a slow dawning, spread across weeks. It will be sudden, like a seal cracking under pressure that has been building for a long, long time. Everything that has been pressing from the inside of the truth against the outer wall of the deception will break through at once. And when it does, what was invisible to the natural eye will become impossible to deny. You will not have to explain anything. The situation itself will speak. Others around you will bear witness, not because you called them to the stand, but because they cannot look away from what is being revealed. And in that moment, your silence, the same silence that may have felt at times like helplessness, will be seen for what it always was: grace, wisdom, the posture of someone who trusted God enough to let Him fight their battle. If you are willing to trust God with the timing, even if it means sitting in discomfort for a little while longer, even if the waiting feels unbearable, write, "I release the timing to God" in the comments. That surrender is not weakness. It is the most powerful position you can occupy in this season.
The moment of sudden exposure, the truth cannot be stopped.
Let me speak now about the condition of your heart as you move through this period. Because while the strategy of heaven unfolds in the external realm of events and circumstances, there is an internal work that must also be tended to. And the internal work is, in many ways, the more important of the two. Because what God is building in this season is not just a better set of external circumstances for you. He is building a new internal architecture. He is rebuilding the inner rooms of your soul so that they can hold the greater weight of the glory that is coming. The outer transformation always follows the inner one. You will notice the circumstances shifting after you notice the inner shifting. The first evidence of your breakthrough will not be an event. It will be a peace, a settled, quiet, unshakable peace that arrives before the tangible changes become visible in the world around you. When that peace comes, and it will come, it may already be here, even as you receive these words. Hold it. Protect it as you would protect something irreplaceable. Do not let the noise of the world or the restless chatter of the anxious mind talk you out of it. That peace is the advance signal of heaven's movement in your direction. It is the inner confirmation that what I have told you today is already active in the spirit realm, already on its way through the corridor between the invisible and the visible, already closer to your natural experience than your current circumstances can show you. Peace is the language of heaven landing inside a human heart. And today, it has been sent to you. You may have noticed, in recent months, that certain emotional responses have been surfacing more frequently or more intensely than usual. Grief that seems to arrive without a clear trigger. Anger that flares in moments when a calmer version of yourself would have let things pass. A weariness that goes deeper than physical tiredness. A soul-level exhaustion that sleep does not fully cure. These are not signs of weakness. These are signs of process. The interior of a life being renovated is always disrupted before it is restored. Walls must come down before new ones can go up. Old foundations must be excavated before the new, deeper ones can be poured. What you have been experiencing emotionally is the renovation crew of heaven doing what renovations require, tearing out what no longer serves in order to make room for what will last. Be gentle with yourself in this. God is not impatient with your process. He is not measuring your progress against an external timeline and finding you insufficient. He is walking with you through every stage of the renovation, and His presence in the disruption is as real as His presence in the breakthrough. In fact, some of the closest encounters with God that human hearts have ever known did not happen on the mountaintops. They happened in the valleys, in the depths, in the places of greatest vulnerability and greatest need. If you have been in one of those places, know this: His proximity to you there is not diminished. It is heightened. One of the specific things I am charged to help you release in this season is the weight of unanswered questions. Why did this happen? Why did God allow someone I trusted to do what they did? Why did the blessing take this long? Why did the warning not come sooner? These questions are not wrong to ask. They're the honest questions of a heart that is trying to make sense of pain. But carrying them as a constant burden, holding them like stones pressed against the chest, prevents the very open-handed posture that receiving requires. You cannot receive with a hand that is closed around a question. So today, I am commanding you to give those questions to God, not to stop asking them. He welcomes honest questions, but to stop carrying them as weights. Place them on the altar of His faithfulness. The answers will arrive in the fullness of time, some of them sooner than you expect, others when you stand in eternity and see the full landscape of your life from God's vantage point. But they are all held. None of them are ignored. And the love behind every unanswered question in your life is the same love that is moving heaven and earth on your behalf today.
Your unanswered prayers were not ignored. They were held. Today, they are released.
Now, I want to speak to the relationships in your world, beyond the one I have already described. Because what is happening in this season is not isolated to a single person or a single situation. It is a comprehensive repositioning of your entire relational landscape. And this repositioning, while it may feel disorienting, is one of the most merciful things God does for a person who is being prepared for a new level. You have almost certainly already noticed that some relationships in your life feel increasingly effortful. Conversations that once flowed naturally now require significant energy to maintain. A friendship or family connection that used to feel life-giving now feels draining in a way that confuses you, because nothing explicitly negative has happened to explain the shift. Or perhaps something has happened. A small moment of disconnection, an exchange that left you feeling unseen or dismissed or subtly diminished, and you found yourself wondering whether to address it or let it pass. Receive this. What feels like deterioration is often actually revelation. The relationships that are becoming strained are not all becoming strained because something went wrong in them. Some of them are becoming strained because they were always operating at a frequency that was lower than the one you are being called to inhabit. They were comfortable because they were familiar, but familiar is not always faithful, and comfortable is not always aligned with your calling. As God elevates the frequency of your life, as the spiritual atmosphere around you shifts in the direction of the breakthrough that is coming, some relationships will simply not be able to maintain their connection to where you are going. This is not judgment on those people, but the path you are on is moving in a specific direction. And the company you keep on that path matters more now than it ever has before. At the same time, I see new connections coming. The person who carries a key to your next door may walk into your life in the most ordinary way. They may sit beside you at an event you almost decided not to attend. They may respond to something you say in a community gathering with a word that lands like a divine confirmation. They may be someone you have known casually for years, but suddenly find yourself in a deeper conversation with, as though a door between you that was always there but always closed has finally swung open. Pay attention to these connections. Be present enough to recognize the unusual quality of an ordinary encounter. Because in this season, the divine appointments God has arranged for you are going to come through the normal texture of life, through the unremarkable-looking moments that carry remarkable spiritual weight. These new people will be distinguished by one quality above all others: loyalty. Not performed loyalty, the kind that is warm and diffusive in your presence but dissolves when the test comes. Genuine loyalty, the kind that is the same whether you are in the room or not. The kind that does not require your success to be maintained. The kind that holds without condition, advocates without agenda, and stands firm in the moments when standing firm costs something. You have not always had this quality of person around you in the abundance you deserve. That is about to change. The loneliness you have felt, the specific loneliness of being surrounded by people while still feeling deeply unseen, is a loneliness with an expiration date. And that date is now. If the promise of genuine, loyal, life-giving relationship resonates in your spirit, write, "I am ready for real community" in the comments. Declare your readiness. Because what you declare your readiness for, you accelerate the arrival of.
New connections ordained by heaven, your true companions approach.
Beloved, let me now speak directly into the dimension of your health. Because I am aware, and heaven is always aware, that for many of you who are receiving this message, there are physical concerns you have been quietly carrying, symptoms that were not there a few years ago, a tiredness with a quality different from simple physical fatigue, aches that come and go without clear explanation, a sense that your body is struggling with something that medicine has either not yet identified or has identified without offering a solution that truly restores. These physical experiences are not separate from the spiritual story I have been telling you. They are connected to it. Hear me on this. When a person carries the weight of hidden betrayal, when the spirit is operating under the specific kind of stress that comes from being spiritually assaulted by someone they trusted, even without consciously knowing the full nature of what is happening, the body registers it. The body keeps a record that the conscious mind often refuses to hold. The inflammation, the disrupted sleep, the tension that settles into the muscles and does not fully release, the immune responses that become erratic. These can be the body's language for what the spirit is carrying. And when the spiritual weight is lifted, when the source of the assault is removed and the atmosphere around your life is cleared, the body very often begins to respond in kind. Absolutely seek the wisdom of good doctors. Absolutely tend to your physical body with all the practical care available to you. But I am telling you, the healing you have been praying for is not disconnected from the spiritual work that is happening today. As the obstruction in your spiritual atmosphere is cleared, as the weight that has been pressing against your life is removed, as the anxiety your spirit has been holding without fully knowing it is resolved, Your physical body will have access to a restoration it has been trying to reach, but could not get to. The healing is coming on multiple levels simultaneously, because that is how God restores, not piecemeal, not in isolated categories, comprehensively, thoroughly, like a rain that reaches every inch of parched ground.
The weariness in your body is not permanent. Healing moves towards you now like a tide.
Before I continue, I must speak about something that is often left unaddressed: the legacy dimension. What God is releasing in this season does not stop with you. It moves through you. And I need you to grasp the magnitude of that truth before we go any further. Because understanding it will completely transform how you receive what is coming. When heaven decides to vindicate a person who has been wronged, when heaven decides to restore what was stolen and open what was closed and multiply what was diminished, it is never operating on a single generation timeline. God thinks in centuries. He thinks in bloodlines. He thinks in the compounding of faithfulness across the arc of a family's story. And what He is releasing into your life in this season is designed to flow forward into the people who come after you. Your children, your grandchildren, the people who will carry your name and your influence into decades you will not personally walk through. The enemy knew this. This is part of why the attack on your life was so determined. He was not simply trying to derail one person's blessing. He was trying to interrupt a generational transfer. He was trying to ensure that what was meant to flow through your life into the lives of those connected to you would be diminished, diverted, or delayed. Because generational impact is one of the things the enemy fears most. A single person walking in the fullness of their divine purpose, raising children in that atmosphere of faith and favor, building something that outlasts them. This is one of the most threatening things a human life can become in the eyes of the spiritual forces that resist the kingdom of God. But the attempt failed. The attack did not succeed in doing what it was designed to do. And now, the generational blessing that was targeted, the inheritance of faith and favor and open doors that was meant to flow from your life into the lives of your descendants, is not only still intact, it is compounded. Every year of the delay, every season of the obstruction, every moment of the resistance, adding to the inheritance rather than subtracting from it. Your children and grandchildren, beloved, are going to inherit a spiritual atmosphere that was forged in your faithfulness. They are going to walk into rooms that will feel inexplicably open to them. Because the person who came before them, you, held the line when holding the line was costly. They are going to carry an anointing that was purchased by your perseverance. Do not underestimate the significance of that. It is one of the most profound things a human life can do, to walk faithfully through your own difficulty so that the path is easier for those who follow. That is the legacy of a faithful person, and that is the legacy you are building. Now, let me address something I know is present in the minds of some of you who are listening. There is a voice. Perhaps you heard it this week. Perhaps you heard it this very morning. a voice questioning whether any of this is real, whether messages like this one are genuine, or simply words arranged to comfort rather than truth arranged to transform. I will meet that question with complete honesty, because heaven has no use for manipulation, and the Archangel Michael does not traffic in comfortable falsehood. Your questioning is not disrespect. Your questioning is the evidence of a mind that has been sharpened by experience, a mind that has learned through encounters with things that promised much and delivered little to test what it receives rather than simply absorb it. That sharpening was not wasted. That discernment is a gift, and I honor it by speaking to it directly rather than around it. Here is the test I offer you, not a test of intellectual argument, because the deepest truths of the Spirit do not yield fully to the analysis of the intellect. The test I offer you is the test of inner witness. As you have been reading these words, set aside the question of whether you believe them externally. Instead, notice what has been happening internally. Notice where something stirred in you without your permission. Notice where a recognition arrived that was not constructed by your thinking, but received by something deeper than your thinking. Notice where the emotion that surfaced was not manufactured by the words, but drawn out by them, as though the words were a key, and there was something inside you that had been locked and waiting for exactly that key to come along. That inner witness is the voice of the Holy Spirit bearing testimony to the truth of what is being delivered. It does not always speak loudly, but it moves, it stirs, it creates a specific quality of resonance that is distinct from the resonance of merely interesting information. If you have felt that resonance today, if you feel it even now as you read this, then what you are feeling is the confirmation of heaven, not manufactured by me, placed there by the God who loves you and who authorized this word to reach you today. There is a practical instruction I must give you now, something concrete, specific, that I want you to carry out in the days immediately following this message. I want you to begin to keep a record, not of your complaints, not of your concerns, not of what is still wrong or still missing or still unresolved. A record of the movements, every small, unexpected shift, every door that opens even slightly, every conversation that carries a quality of unusual meaning, every moment where a confirmation arrives for something I have told you today. Write it down, in a notebook, in your phone, in whatever medium is most natural to you. Date every entry. I give you this instruction for 2 reasons. The first is practical. When you are in the middle of a long spiritual process, when the days are moving and the circumstances are changing and the evidence is accumulating piece by piece, it is easy for the human mind to lose track of the thread. The notebook keeps the thread. It reminds you on the harder days that the movement is real, that it did not stop, that what God began, He is continuing. The second reason is prophetic. That record you are building is going to become a testimony, not just for you, for others. There are people in your world who are going to need to hear the story of your season, who are going to need the evidence of God's faithfulness in your life as the anchor for their own faith in a moment when their own faith is struggling to hold. God does not deliver His people publicly so that they can hold the testimony privately. What He does for you He intends to speak through you, and your record will be the raw material of a testimony that helps more people than you can currently imagine. Begin the record today. Today is day 1. Right at the top of the first page, something that marks this moment. Something that says, "On this day, heaven spoke to me, and I was ready to receive it." That first line is the beginning of a document that will take years to complete and will never stop being meaningful. And when you write that first entry, when you date it and seal it and place it at the top of the page, understand what you are actually doing. You are not simply journaling. You are building an altar. The way the patriarchs of old piled stones at the place where God moved and declared, "Here the Lord acted on my behalf." Every entry you make is another stone on that altar. And altars, beloved, are not just for the one who built them. They are landmarks for everyone who walks past them. Your children will walk past this altar. Your grandchildren will read these pages. And what they encounter in your record will become the bedrock of their faith. In moments when they are tempted to believe that God is silent, that heaven is distant, that miracles stopped happening in someone else's era, your testimony will destroy that lie before it can take root in them. That is the prophetic weight of the record you are being commanded to begin today.
Begin a record today. What you write this week, your grandchildren will call their foundation.
I want to go deeper now into the spiritual geography of what is being displaced in your life. Because it is not enough to simply say that a betrayal occurred, and an exposure is coming, and a blessing is being released. Those truths are real, but they are the surface of a much deeper reality. And for those of you who are hungry for the fullness of what heaven is doing in this season, I am going beneath the surface with you now. There are what I will call territorial assignments. When the enemy dispatches an influence against a person of God, it is rarely through one channel alone. The individual who operates against you in the natural world, the one I have been describing, is not acting entirely independently. They are connected, whether they know it fully or not, to a spiritual force whose assignment is the specific area of your calling. The enemy studied your gifts. He examined the dimension of your life where your contribution to the world is greatest, where your presence makes the most difference, where your influence carries the most weight for the kingdom of God. And he assigned opposition to that specific dimension. The person who betrayed you was not chosen randomly. They were chosen because of what they could access, the specific doors in your life that their position of trust allowed them to reach. This is why the disruption you experienced was not general. It was targeted. The areas where you felt the most friction, the most inexplicable resistance, the most baffling closed doors, those are the exact areas where this targeted opposition was focused. And this is also exactly why the restoration coming to you will be so specific and so thorough. Because God's response to targeted opposition is not general blessing. It is targeted restoration. Every specific area that was obstructed will receive a specific and corresponding opening. Every specific resource that was redirected away from you will be redirected back. Every specific relationship of destiny that was delayed will arrive, and will arrive with an urgency that makes up for the waiting. You will recognize this specificity when it comes. You will look at what is being opened, and you will know, without being told, without having to reason through it, that what arrived is the exact thing that was taken, returned in a form that is greater than what was lost. And in that moment, the reality of what I have told you today will be confirmed in a way that is so undeniable, so precise, so unmistakably the signature of the God who sees every detail of your life, that the last residue of doubt will dissolve completely. Not because you argued yourself into certainty, but because the evidence of heaven's faithfulness will be standing right in front of you, too real to question.
The sword of heaven, every targeted chain is being cut.
Let me speak to those of you who have spent years serving others without adequate care for your own soul. Women who put their children first, their grandchildren first, their husbands or aging parents first, their church communities first. Women whose generosity has been so constant and so central to their identity that they have genuinely forgotten what it feels like to be the one who receives rather than always the one who gives. I see you with a particular clarity today, and what I see moves heaven. God has been watching your sacrifice. He has been watching the way you gave when you were depleted, the way you showed up when showing up cost you more than anyone around you knew, the way you smiled through your own grief so that someone else would not carry the additional weight of worrying about you, the way you held others in prayer through the night when your own prayers felt unanswered, the way you kept the faith for your family, your community, your friends, even in the seasons when your personal faith was barely a flicker, because it was all you had left to give. Heaven does not overlook that. Heaven does not evaluate generosity by its ease. Heaven evaluates it by its cost. And what you have given, at the cost you have given it, has not been calculated in the currency of human recognition. It has been measured by a different standard entirely, and the return on what you have sown through decades of faithful, costly, sometimes lonely generosity, that return is what is now arriving in your life. Not all at once, because abundance arriving all at once can overwhelm a person who has not been prepared to steward it, but in a steady, increasing, multiplying flow that will build over the coming weeks and months and will not stop. Because the account that has been building in heaven does not run dry overnight. It was filled over a long time, and it will pour out over a meaningful time. Today marks the beginning of your season of receiving, not the end of your season of giving, because generosity is woven into who you are, and it is one of your most beautiful qualities. But the beginning of the time when the giving flows from abundance rather than from sacrifice. The beginning of the time when you pour from a full vessel rather than one that is perpetually running on empty. The beginning of the time when someone cares for you the way you have cared for everyone else. That is not a small promise. That is a reversal of a pattern that has held you in its grip for too long. And heaven authorized it today. If you have been the giver for so long that receiving feels almost uncomfortable, write, "I give heaven permission to bless me," in the comments. That permission is more significant than it sounds. Because some of the most faithful givers have a hidden resistance to receiving that functions as a spiritual ceiling on the abundance God is trying to release. Remove that ceiling today. Declare your willingness to receive as freely as you have given.
You have been chosen. What was taken is returning. What was closed is opening. Today.
As we move toward the closing of this message, and I need you to hear me, what is in the final portion is as vital as anything I have said before it. Do not allow the awareness of the nearing end to cause you to disengage. What comes now is the dimension of the season most easily missed by those focused primarily on what is being taken away and what is being restored. That dimension is purpose. Everything that has happened to you, the betrayal, the opposition, the delays, the seasons of unexplained closed doors, has been shaping you for a purpose. Not a vague, feel-good sense of general significance, but a specific, God-authored, heaven-mandated assignment that only you carry. No other person on earth has your exact combination of experience, capacity, wound, and gift. No other person has lived your specific life in your specific way. And from that uniqueness, God crafts a contribution that is irreplaceable. Something that the world, that the people in your specific sphere of influence cannot receive from anyone else, because no one else has what you have. The delay in your breakthrough was not just about the removal of opposition. It was also about the completion of your preparation. Every difficulty you moved through added a layer of depth to your character that could not have been achieved another way. Every season of waiting developed in you a capacity for patience and trust that only waiting can develop. Every moment of being misunderstood, every time you were seen incorrectly, reduced to a lesser version of who you are, developed in you a compassion for the misunderstood that you will carry into the lives of people who desperately need someone to look at them and actually see them clearly. Your wounds, transformed by the grace of God, become your most powerful tools of ministry and service and influence. This is the deep economy of God. He wastes nothing. He uses everything. He takes even the actions of those who intended harm and converts them into the raw materials of your greatest strength. The enemy knows this. It is why, after every failed attempt to destroy you, he does not simply give up and walk away. He recalculates and tries again, because he knows that if he cannot prevent the purpose, he must try to delay it long enough to limit its impact. But today, the delay is ending. Today, the accumulation of preparation meets the release of timing. Today, the person you have become through everything you have endured meets the season that was built to contain the fullness of what you were always meant to be. The next act of your life will not look like the previous ones. It will carry a different authority, a different weight, a different effectiveness. Not because you are doing something fundamentally different, but because the accumulated depth built in you through your years of faithfulness will now be fully available in everything you do. People will respond to you differently. They will not always be able to explain why, but they will sense it. There will be a quality about your presence, a settledness, a clarity, a depth that draws people toward you and creates an atmosphere of trust. That is not personality. That is the mark of someone who has been through the fire and come out refined rather than destroyed. Here is my final warning, and I give it with love and with urgency in equal measure. The enemy's last attempt to derail this season will come from a familiar direction. It will come from a thought that surfaces in a quiet moment and says, "This is too good to be true. This is not for you. People like you do not get endings like this." Look at the history. Look at how many times you hoped and were disappointed. This time will be no different. That thought will carry a feeling with it, a specific kind of tired resignation, a heaviness that tries to present itself as wisdom, but is actually despair wearing the costume of realism. When that thought arrives, and it will arrive, do not engage it with argument. Do not try to outreason it, because it does not operate in the domain of reason. It operates in the domain of exhaustion. The only effective response is not a counter-argument. It is a declaration, a spoken, audible, deliberate declaration of what you believe, regardless of what you feel. Say this: I am in my season. What God began in my life, He will complete. No weapon formed against my destiny has ever prospered. Heaven is moving on my behalf today. I receive it. I believe it. I will not shrink back. Say that out loud. Right now, do not simply read past it. Say it out loud, in whatever room you are in, at whatever volume your circumstances allow, because the spoken declaration carries a power that the internal thought does not. When you open your mouth and give voice to faith, something shifts in the atmosphere immediately around you. I know this because I have been in the room when people make declarations. I have seen what happens in the invisible realm when a human voice speaks the truth of God over their own life with conviction and intention. The response is immediate. It is significant. The enemy retreats, not from argument, not from logic, from the sound of faith spoken aloud from a human heart. You are stronger than you know. You have been stronger than you know through this entire season. The fact that you are still here, still believing, still reaching, still showing up to receive a word like this one, that is the evidence of a strength that most people never develop. Honor it, celebrate it, walk in it, and carry it forward into everything that is ahead. Let me close by telling you what I see when I look at you today, not what circumstances say about you, not what the opposition has tried to make you into, not the reduced, diminished, questioned version of yourself that the betrayal was designed to install in your own mind. What I see when I look at you with the eyes of heaven, I see someone chosen. I see someone whose name was written before the stars were set in their places. I see someone whose covenant with the Most High God has never been revoked, never been suspended, never been called into question by anything that has been done against them. I see the assignment still intact, the gift still present, the calling still active, the promise still standing, unchanged by the difficulty, undiminished by the opposition, unaffected by every attempt that was made to alter what God declared. I see someone standing on the threshold of the fullness of everything they were made for, standing on a day, this day, when heaven drew a line in time and said, "The waiting ends here. The holding back is over. The season of your limitation is closing, and the season of your flourishing is beginning. That is what I see. And what I see in the Spirit is more real than anything your natural eye has access to. So, if what you see around you in the natural world does not yet reflect what I am describing, if the circumstances have not yet caught up to the declaration, hold the declaration more tightly than you hold the circumstances, because the declaration is the seed, and the circumstances are the soil. And today, the seed was planted in prepared ground, and the harvest of it is coming with a certainty and a completeness that nothing in this world or beyond it has the power to prevent. I am Michael. I have guarded your life through battles you saw and battles you never knew were happening. I have been your shield in the night and your companion in the wilderness. I have stood over your sleeping children and walked before you into rooms that needed to be cleared before you arrived. I have been faithful to my assignment over your life because the God who gave me that assignment is faithful. And his faithfulness is not conditional on whether the season is easy or hard, visible or hidden, celebrated or lonely. Today was the day of the seals breaking. Today was the day of the opening of the record. Today was the day of the turning. And I was authorized to bring you this word today, so that you would know from this day forward that you were not abandoned. You were not overlooked. You were not forgotten. You were always, always seen, known, covered, and moving toward exactly this moment. Walk forward, beloved. Your season is here. Amen.
That was today's letter. I told you at the start, I picked this envelope up 4 times before I opened it. Now you have heard why. And if you stayed all the way to the end of that letter, if you heard every word, then you already know whether this was the one that was meant for you today. Every morning I come to this table, the letters are waiting. And every morning the same thing happens. One of them carries a weight the others don't have. One of them was written for the people gathering that day. That is the one you saw me open. That is the letter you just received. What I want to say to you now is simple. The images in these photographs and the words on these prediction cards, these are not decorations. They are part of the transmission. Heaven sent them to be seen, not just heard. If something in those images or those words lodged in your spirit, pay attention to it. Sit with it. Because the impressions that stay with you after a letter like this one are not random. They are the part that was specifically for you. If today's letter landed where it was meant to, if something in it was the word you needed, then I want to ask you to do one thing before you close this. Leave a comment. Tell me, what word hit the deepest place in you today? What did God confirm in your spirit? Because the person who reads your comment tomorrow, who is standing at the same crossroads you are standing at today, may need to see exactly what you are about to write. Your testimony in that comment section is not just for me. It is for them. And if this letter moved you, if it reached you, share it with one person who needs to hear it today. Just one. You already know who came to mind. Tomorrow there will be more envelopes on this table, and I will sit with them again. And one will carry the word for that day's gathering. This is the work. And as long as heaven keeps sending these letters, I will be here to open them. I am Dorothy, and today this letter found you.